For years, people thought they understood him. They thought they could predict his reactions, decode his silence, and interpret every look he gave, especially whenever her name came up. But they were wrong. What the world didn't know was that Yaman's silence was never weakness. It wasn't denial. It wasn't indifference. It was rebellion. A rebellion against the narratives written for him. A rebellion against the accusations thrown at him. A rebellion against the impossible expectations placed on someone who never asked to be a public myth. But above all, it was a rebellion against losing the only person who ever understood him without words, Demet Özdemir. The truth is, Demet didn't just step away from the spotlight. She didn't simply move on, as the magazines tried to claim. She didn't disappear because of drama, or jealousy, or sudden career choices. No. Her disappearance was the result of something deeper. Something that started long before anyone realized, something that forced Can into the most dangerous position a public figure can ever be in, choosing between protecting the truth, and protecting the woman he once thought he had forever. You see, the story didn't begin with a breakup. It began with a warning. A single message. Short. Cold. Anonymous. Delivered on a night when everything felt normal, a night that would mark the beginning of the end. Stop seeing her. If you don't, she pays the price. At first, Ken thought it was a joke. A troll. A jealous fan or a desperate tabloid rat trying to start chaos. But then, things escalated. Paparazzi appearing in places they shouldn't have known about. Private moments leaking online without any cameras visibly present. Strangers showing up near their sets, following crew members, asking questions no ordinary fan should ask. And Demet, she started noticing details too. Her car slightly moved in the parking lot. Her messages marked as read when she hadn't opened them. Lights turning on in her apartment even when she wasn't home. Something was wrong. Very wrong. And Ken, the man who had spent years building his reputation, his career, his armor, did the only thing he could to protect her. He chose silence. Silence toward the media. Silence toward the fans. Silence even toward Demet herself when the danger became too close. Because the truth is, he didn't push her away because he wanted to. He pushed her away because someone else left him no choice. But of course, the world misread everything. People said he moved on. People said he became distant. People said he forgot about Demet. They had no idea that every moment of silence, every event he attended alone, every interview where he hid the tremble in his voice, was part of a quiet rebellion against forces he couldn't fight publicly. And Demet's disappearance? It wasn't abandonment. It wasn't betrayal. It wasn't indifference. It was survival. A survival orchestrated in the shadows, by the only man who still believed her safety was worth more than the truth. And now, years later, that truth is finally breaking the surface. It was supposed to be a normal night. A simple wrap-up after a long shooting day, nothing more. Demet had already changed into her comfortable clothes, ready to head home. Ken was finishing the last scene, still in costume, still carrying that intense energy he always had after emotional takes. But that night, something in the air felt different. The crew noticed it first, the unusual number of unfamiliar faces hovering near the set gates. Not paparazzi, not fans, not anyone the security team recognized. They didn't take pictures. They didn't scream his name. They just watched. Quiet. Expressionless. Unblinking. And every time Ken turned his head, at least one pair of eyes was on him. When the filming wrapped, the director joked, "Looks like you've got admirers tonight," but even he didn't believe what he said. There was no admiration in those faces. There was a coldness that no fan carries. Demet felt it too. She walked up to Ken quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ken, something's off tonight." He didn't answer immediately. Because he knew she was right. Hours earlier, he had received the second message. No name. No sender. No trace. Just one line. You didn't listen. Attached was a blurry picture of Demet walking to her car. Taken from behind. Taken close. Too close. He didn't tell her. Not yet. Not until he could figure out how real the threat was. But now, watching those strangers linger near the entrance, watching the way they never looked away, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Not for himself, he had been in fights, he had faced danger, he had lived through storms that would break most people. But for Demet? For the one woman who had no idea she had become the target of someone's obsession? His heart tightened. He stepped closer and gently took her arm, guiding her away from the crowd. Demet tried to ask what was happening, but he cut her off with a quiet, "Just trust me tonight." They walked toward the back exit, avoiding the main gate, keeping their heads down. But someone was already there. A dark figure leaned against the wall, pretending to smoke, though the cigarette was unlit. He watched them walk by. He didn't smile. He didn't react. He just memorized their faces. That was the moment Ken realized this wasn't a harmless warning. This was surveillance. They reached Demet's car. Ken opened her door, trying to hide the tension in his hands. But she wasn't blind, she saw the way his jaw clenched, the way he scanned every corner, the way his breathing changed. "Ken, what aren't you telling me?" He hesitated. The truth weighed on him like 1,000 stones. Then he said the one thing that would mark the beginning of their silent collapse: "Don't go straight home tonight. Take a different road. Don't stop anywhere. Lock the doors." Demet froze. Why? Before he could answer, his phone vibrated. Another message. This time, it wasn't a warning. It was a threat. Last chance. Choose. And with that, the night that was supposed to end quietly turned into the night that changed everything. Because from that moment on, Yaman understood one brutal reality: if he wanted to keep Demet safe, he would have to disappear from her life first. 4 days after that night, Ken barely slept. Every vibration of his phone felt like a knife. Every shadow outside his window looked like a warning. Every time Demet stepped outside, his chest tightened with a fear he had never known, a fear that didn't belong in the glamorous world people believed they lived in. But this wasn't glamour. This wasn't fame. This was danger. And the more he tried to protect her quietly, the more aggressive the messages became. They escalated from warnings, to surveillance photos, to recordings of conversations Demet had never shared publicly. Someone was watching her. Someone was following her. Someone wanted her scared, or gone. And Ken realized something devastating: whoever was doing this, wanted him isolated. Wanted her vulnerable. Wanted to separate them at any cost. And the only way to stop them, was to give them exactly what they wanted. He didn't tell a soul. Not his team. Not the production crew. Not even Demet. Because if he shared it with her, if she knew the danger she was in, she would never leave his side. She would fight, she would ask questions, she would demand the truth, and that would put her right in the center of the fire. So he made the decision no man should ever have to make. He decided to walk away from her, to save her. The first step was distance. He started replying less. Short messages. Delays. Coldness he didn't feel but forced himself to act out. Demet noticed instantly. "Are you okay? Did I do something? Why are you different?" Questions that shattered him every time he read them. But he stayed silent. Because silence was his rebellion. His shield. His sacrifice. Then came the day that broke everything. Demet showed up at his place without warning. Eyes tired, voice trembling, heart already sensing something was horribly wrong. "Tell me the truth, Ken. What's happening?" He looked at her, really looked, taking in her face, her softness, her trust, her confusion, knowing it would be the last time he'd see her this close. He wanted to tell her everything. He wanted to confess the messages, the threats, the danger. He wanted to hold her and promise that none of this was her fault. But he couldn't. Because if he did, she would never let him walk away. And the people watching her would take that as a challenge. So he lied. He forced the coldness into his voice. He forced the distance into his eyes. We shouldn't see each other anymore. Demet stepped back as if slapped. Why? What changed? Did I hurt you? Is there someone else? He swallowed hard. Every question was a dagger. No, he whispered. It's just better this way. She didn't believe him for a second, he saw it in her eyes. Because she knew him. She knew when his heart was speaking and when it was breaking. Look at me and say you don't care anymore, she demanded. He couldn't. The words wouldn't come. Not because he didn't care, but because caring was the reason he had to let her go. Finally, Demet whispered the sentence that would haunt him for years, "You're protecting me from something, aren't you?" His silence was the answer. Tears filled her eyes. Not because he pushed her away, but because she understood something terrifying. Whatever he was protecting her from was bigger than their love. And that was the day Demet disappeared from the public eye. Not because she abandoned him. Not because she moved on. But because the man she trusted most chose to save her by losing her. When Demet stepped out of his home that day, something inside Ken collapsed. A part of him he never showed anyone, not the media, not his friends, not even his mother, simply broke. He waited until the door closed, and only then allowed his knees to weaken, his breath to shake, and the truth to crush him. He had saved her. But he had lost himself. And the worst part? The people threatening them knew it. Because only hours after Demet left, Ken received the message that confirmed everything. Good. Now stay silent. No demands. No instructions. Just that cold, twisted approval, like the sender wanted him to suffer from the consequences of his own obedience. That was the moment Ken realized something horrifying. This wasn't about money. This wasn't about jealousy. This wasn't about a crazy fan. This was personal. The threats, the surveillance, the pressure to push Demet away. Someone wanted them separated. Not for attention. Not for chaos. But for control. And the deeper Ken thought about it, the more his memory replayed the smallest details, things he'd ignored because life was busy, because fame was loud, because love blurred the edges. A face he had seen twice at the airport, a man pretending to read a newspaper but peeking over the edges. A woman who always seemed to be near Demet's rehearsals, holding a phone but never recording anything. A van he noticed in the same street 3 nights in a row, engine off, windows dark. Signs he had dismissed. Signals he didn't connect. Warnings he didn't understand, until it was too late. So he did something he hadn't done in years, he asked for help. Not from the police. He didn't trust a system that would leak information to tabloids. Not from his team, they would panic, and panic spreads. Not even from Demet, she deserved peace, not this nightmare. He reached out to someone who owed him a favor, a former security consultant, a man known for solving problems the public never hears about. When Ken sent him the screenshots, the blurry photos, the messages, the reply came instantly, "You're not dealing with a random person. This is coordinated. Organized. Someone with resources." That word, organized, hit him harder than anything else. Because it meant whoever was behind this had a structure. A plan. A reason. And they weren't stopping. The consultant asked for every detail, dates, locations, moments, faces, even emotions, the fear, the instinct, the tension. After hours of silence, he sent the first real lead, a name. Or rather, a code name. Orion. A shadow group. A private circle known for influencing careers, relationships, reputations. Quietly, strategically, always from behind the scenes. No publicity. No fingerprints. No proof. They operated in whispers, and destroyed people without ever being seen. And they had now chosen Can and Demet. But why? The consultant had one theory, a theory that chilled Can to the bone: someone wanted Demet isolated. Someone wanted you obedient. Someone believed keeping you two apart served their interests. Can slammed his fist against the wall, rage boiling under his skin. He had followed the rules. He had walked away. He had sacrificed everything. But the messages didn't stop. If anything, they got worse. Because now the sender knew something new, something terrifying. If they wanted to hurt Can, they only had to threaten Demet. And from that moment on, protecting her from afar wasn't enough. He needed to find the enemy. He needed to expose them. He needed to end this, before it ended her. Can thought things couldn't get worse. He thought he had already sacrificed the most painful part of his life, the woman he loved, and that surely, the threats would end now that he had followed their demand. But Orion wasn't done. They weren't satisfied. They weren't interested in the breakup. They wanted control. And the moment Can realized that, everything shifted. 3 weeks passed in silence. Demet had disappeared from public events. No interviews. No red carpets. No casual coffee shop photos from fans. People thought she was taking a break. Working on new projects. Healing from whatever the media assumed the breakup had caused. But the truth was darker: she was hiding. Not because she was weak, but because she was smart enough to trust her instincts. But even hiding wasn't enough to escape Orion's reach. One morning, as she prepared to leave her apartment, Demet noticed something she had overlooked earlier: her front door wasn't fully closed. Not broken. Not damaged. Just slightly open, as if someone had pushed it and left quietly. Her body froze. Her breath stopped. She stepped back without making a sound and immediately texted Can, even though they weren't supposed to talk. "Someone was in my house." He called her instantly, ignoring every rule, every threat, every piece of advice he had been given. "Leave the building. Don't go back inside. Don't touch anything." His voice was sharp, protective, trembling. But before she could move, her phone buzzed again. A new message. From the same unknown number. "We're closer than you think." Demet's knees weakened. She wasn't safe anymore. Not even at home. Not even alone. Ken felt the blood drain from his face as she read the message aloud. This wasn't a warning anymore. This was a declaration. He rushed across the city without thinking, hoodie up, face hidden, ignoring security protocols. When he reached her building, Demet was standing outside with her arms wrapped around herself, trying to look calm but failing. The moment their eyes met, everything they had tried to bury resurfaced: the love, the fear, the tension, the unspoken questions. He didn't touch her. He couldn't. But his voice, low and shaken, said everything: "This ends tonight." But ending it wasn't simple. When his contact, the security consultant, inspected Demet's apartment, he found what they both feared. A tiny, almost invisible camera placed behind the bookshelf. Not professionally installed. Quick work. Fast in, fast out. Meaning, whoever entered her home wasn't finished. They were preparing for something bigger. The consultant turned to Can and said the words that changed everything: "They're not just watching. They're waiting." Can knew what that meant. Orion wasn't after Demet. They were after him. Hurting her was leverage. Breaking them apart was the strategy. Watching her was the pressure. And pushing him to the edge? That was the goal. But they had underestimated one thing: the part of Ken that wasn't the celebrity, the actor, the public figure. The part of him that was a fighter. The moment he saw that camera, something inside him snapped. He wasn't going to stay silent anymore. He wasn't going to follow their rules. He wasn't going to disappear. His silence had been a rebellion. Now his fight would be the truth. He removed the camera himself, crushing it in his hand. The consultant glared at him, but Ken didn't care. "Find them," he said through clenched teeth. "I don't care what it takes. I don't care who they are. I'm ending this." Demet watched him, fear in her eyes, but also something else, trust. Because no matter how broken they were, no matter how much distance he had forced between them, she knew one truth: he had never stopped protecting her. And now, finally, he wasn't hiding the fight anymore. Demet didn't vanish because she wanted to. She didn't disappear because of heartbreak, jealousy, work, or fame. She disappeared because someone powerful forced Ken's hand. Someone in the shadows tried to separate them, control them, and break them. And Ken, the man the world accused of being cold, distant, selfish, did the only thing he could: he sacrificed his happiness to save hers. He stayed silent. He rebelled in the only way he could. He endured the pain alone. But now? Now the world is finally learning the truth: Demet didn't disappear from him. He disappeared to protect her. And the silence that everyone mistook for indifference was the greatest act of love he had ever made. But this story isn't over. Because Orion is still out there. The threats haven't stopped. The truth is only beginning to surface. And Yaman, the man they tried to break, is finally ready to fight back. Not silently. Not secretly. But openly. For Demet. For the truth. For everything they stole from them. The rebellion is over. Now comes the war.